Oregon State Beavers under head coach Mark Barnard. Stanford, meanwhile, under second-year head coach Kevin Hambly. And for the Stanford Cardinal, their lineup looks like this. It features Catherine Plummer and also at outside hitter Megan McClure. McClure has gotten much better at passing this year, as has Stanford as a team. Morgan Hintz is the libero, and 5.14 digs per set. That is tops in the Pac-12. And for Oregon State, under Mark Barnard, there's their starting lineup. Maddie Goings and Amy Underdown on the outside. Underdown, the University of Maryland transfer. Very important to what they do. A lot of pressure on Gravely and Shell at middle blocker as well. Maddie Sheehan only became a setter about 15 months ago for her senior year in high school. Rich Burke along with Amy Ganton. A couple of marquee wins for Oregon State this year. They won at then number 21 Iowa State, at then number 23 San Diego. Almost knocked off Washington earlier this year. They took the first two sets here in Corvallis. And then last Thursday at Utah, they had a bad first set. They were down 9-2 in the second, and they turned it on. Lost that second game 32-30, but won the third and the fourth and lost in the fifth 15-13.
Right, I think, for Oregon State, it's tough to play in the Pac-12, and you have to walk away from all your different matches seeing all the good that occurred. And for Oregon State, there's a lot of good there.
Kevin Hambly, the head coach of Stanford, said that he thinks Oregon State fights harder than any team in the Pac-12. He said, full credit to them. You would know their record by watching them play.
Right, and I think that's the mark of a good team. That's what all coaches want, is regardless of what the score is, to have your team playing and putting forth their top effort regardless of what's going on.
Oregon State has never beaten Stanford. Stanford 66-0 all time against OSU. Matter of fact, going back to 2004, Stanford's won 84 sets, Oregon State only 6. This year, for the entire season for Stanford, get this, they've won 50 sets and lost only 7. Lindsay Shell goes wide, and Stanford with the first point. So for Stanford, this train just keeps on rolling. They lost in the national semifinal last year to the eventual national runner-up Florida. Maddie Goings' first swing, pulling the block of Tammy Alade and Catherine Plummer.
Right now for Oregon State, their goal coming into this was to get back behind the service line and just go for it. Attack, be very strategic. They're going to throw a lot of short serves in there to try to disrupt the offense of Stanford.
Yeah, Mark Barnard told us he thinks that the short serve in general is an underutilized stratagem. Good dig by Goings, tight to the net. And we had violation on Oregon State, so 2-1 Stanford.
That pass going tight to the net caused Sheehan to touch the ball with the latte. That's a back row block, and Stanford once again gets the ball back.
Setter Jenna Gray back to serve. Gray, a junior, part of that great recruiting class that Stanford had a couple of years ago. Jenna Gray's 31st service error this year against 22 aces.
And I think what makes Stanford so good is that they are always trying to get better. They're every single day in practice, they're always looking to improve and kind of work to just whatever skill they see that they need improving, they're going to work on it and not rest on their amazing laurels.
Adriana Fitzmaurice from the outside.
And Fitzmaurice is a player that is, over the past couple weeks, really come on for Stanford, has been a big offensive weapon and has really balanced out the attack antenna to antenna for them.
Excellent pass by Plummer in transition. She fires it hard angle attack and goes wide. Catherine Plummer hitting .315 coming in and 7th in the nation at 4.91 kills per set. Goes wide with that one.
And 2 quick unforced errors for Stanford, and that's exactly what Oregon State wants. Force Stanford into an uncomfortable situation where they kind of have to swing that they don't want to do and hope that they make some errors.
Here's a swing by Underdown using the block. That all goes back to the serve of Grace Massey, which put a lot of pressure on Stanford. All Alade could do was punch it over. That gave OSU the chance.
Exactly. When you start with the tough serve, you exert your dominance. You decide that you're going to be on the attack from the beginning, and hopefully that can come back and put you in a better situation. Oregon
State with nothing to lose, really, with an early 5-2 lead. That one off the cord. There's Plummer again, just pushing it over. Another opportunity. Bump set by Massey. Swing by Underdown. We got dug by Morgan Hintz, one of the best liberos in the country. Swing for Fitzmaurice, and that was dug by Massey off the block and in play. So Stanford gets one back now, 5-3.
That block just falls, barely catching the line, but Oregon State clearly coming out, playing Stanford tough. A lot of energy as they've stepped out on the court.
Well done for Tammy Alade there. Maddie Sheehan, the freshman setter, and four-set miscommunication there, and it is a 5-4 for Oregon State lead. OSU basically has to play a flawless match.
They do, and I think to do that, they've got to pass. They've got to pass well. They've got to be in system as much as possible because, like you said, Stanford, the top blocking team in the conference as well.
Bump set by Bennett, out of system, back row attack by Goings, over dig. Haley Bennett took a swing at it, dug by Plummer, but out of play. Catherine Plummer, reigning ABCA National Play of the Year. Last year, 4.66 kills per set. This year, 4.91. Gray dialing up Megan McClure, dug by Massey. Bennett goes Underdown's way. Just tapped it over. Back row attack by Plummer using the block. Sheehan and Gravely did everything they could, but Plummer is just such an offensive weapon.
Yeah, a lot of stuff in that position. She almost went right on top of her libero, but Catherine Plummer always an outlet, and that even quick back row, that Bick out of the back row out of transition has been so good. As a blocker, you've always got to know where Catherine Plummer is.
You saw that Freshman of the Year 2 years ago, Player of the Year last year, only one to win it in consecutive years. McClure tipping it over. And bad contact by Oregon State. It's going to be a point anyway. Yeah. Mark Barnard talked to us about the fact, he told his team, don't get beaten by the tip.
He said anything. Let us get beat any other way, but do not let tips fall.
Too long for Morgan Hintz. And a service error on Stanford. That's their second.
And usually in that first set, both teams trying to figure each other out, really trying to make those adjustments, and it really comes down to how quickly you can figure out what's going on and open up some holes on the floor.
Straight down to the floor from Courtney Bowen. Bowen, a senior from Brooklyn in the Chapin School, playing in just her 14th set this year. She's in there, and Holly Campbell is not.
Right, and Bowen just a great outlet. 6'4" middle blocker, a lot of size, terrific movement along the net. She puts up a very formidable block.
Sheehan going to Goings off the soft block. And it's Bowen again with that quick from Jenna Gray.
A great transition from Bowen. That started with a good block. The soft block turned it into a free ball that she was able to transition. Got up very quick, not much of an approach because she didn't have time, but she made herself available and gets that kill. Kate
Formico's serve for Stanford. There's Goings again, and the block of Gray and Bowen. Stanford with their first lead at 8-7 since it was 1-0, and now they lead 9-7.
Well, with that pass, really kind of dying inside and low, that's a blocker's dream right there. Really nice lineup for Gray.
Pushed over by Bowen, but it went wide. Again, Stanford this year has won 50 sets and lost only 7. They've won 11 straight sets since losing the second set at Utah on October 5th. And for Oregon State, Montana Grubrud comes in to serve and play some defense. She's also one of their setters. Swing from McClure, diving dig. Excellent job by Kayla Ellis. Swing by McClure. She gets dug by Grubrud. Back row attack, Underdown goes long.
Terrific defensive effort for Ellis on that side for Oregon State, but Stanford just continuing to battle. They will hit you again and again and again because it's this relentless attack that's almost exhausting. You put forth the defensive effort, but Stanford continues to just come at you.
Megan McClure to serve, the sophomore out of Rancho Santa Margarita, California. Kept alive by Ellis. Nice play by both Goings and Plummer. Whipped over, Hintz read it well. Swing for Plummer, off the block and down.
What a read from Morgan Hintz, coming inside, reading that ball on the tip, and not only popping it up, but putting it in a spot where Jenna Gray could set anyone on the floor.
That's a 3-point Stanford lead as they look to take charge here. Midway through this first game, Goings using the block to get one back for Oregon State and get McClure off the service line.
And I love that shot because especially when you're facing a team that's got a great block, don't try to go around it, you know, go right through it. You've got big arms in front of you, a big target. Keep the ball high and just use those blocks.
Maddie Sheehan to serve for Oregon State, their setter. Sheehan, a true freshman out of Leander, Texas, and Rouse High School. Had a Pac-12 Freshman of the Week award earlier this year. Ball State High School setter in Texas last year, despite the fact it was the first-year setting in her career. Oregon State lost their setter from last season, the Pac-12 Freshman of the Year, Kylie McLaughlin, who because of family reasons had to transfer closer to home in Texas. She transferred to Oklahoma. Swing for Haley Bennett. Swing for Catherine Plummer. Kept alive by Bennett, but on the overdig, it's Plummer who takes care of business. 13-9 Stanford lead.
And we haven't seen a ton, both teams really offensive, not hitting at a super high level as we get a good swing, good view on Plummer, but Stanford hitting just above 200 and Oregon State just at 0 at this point in the first set.
Both teams out of system here on this rally. Plummer sends it over, under down, nicely. And Lindsay Shell with her first kill. Shell kind of shaking her head at that one, but it worked out.
Well, she mishit the ball a little bit, but could you have picked a better spot to put that? She mishits it, just puts it right along the net. Plummer very surprised by that, not ready defensively, and Oregon State keeping it close at this midpoint in the first set.
Sometimes those mishits can work out.
Are always the best.
Gray going to Olade, dug by Sheehan, bump set Massey. Here comes Haley Bennett into the double block of Olade and Plummer, but out of bounds.
Well, and there it is again, Oregon State tooling the block, going after hands. Getting it through the block for Stanford doesn't mean it's going to go down because their defense is so good. So if you can really isolate and tool the ball as much as possible, you're going to be successful.
Plummer shooting one through the block of Bennett and Shell. 14-11 Stanford. Oregon State last year 21-12, 11-9 in the Pac-12, made the NCAA tournament for just the second time since 2001. Stanford has made it every year. And we had a line violation on the serve. So 14-12 Stanford. Gray not happy with that. Grace Massey, sophomore libero, to serve for Oregon State. Fitzmaurice into the block. Great play by McClure to keep it alive. Fitzmaurice again, dug by Massey. Sheehan going to underdown off the block. And another point for Oregon State. Somebody forgot to inform Oregon State they're supposed to be dominated.
Well, I think they've really come out and stuck to their game plan. They're serving tough from the beginning and putting up a nice block. We haven't seen a lot of stuff blocks, but what they've done is kind of slowed the ball down, allowed a nice transition play to keep them in the set.
Back set to Plummer, into the block of Bradley and under down. And OSU has evened it up.
And there's that stuff block right there to finish off that point.
First block for Oregon State in the match. Stanford has 2. Short serve from Massey. Fitzmaurice off the slide, dug by Sheehan. Massey with the set, pushed over by Bennett, dug by Hintz. Gray backs at Fitzmaurice, second swing of the rally, this time the kill for the 15-14 lead. Adriana Fitzmaurice has her first kill of the match.
Beautiful set from Jenna Gray to keep her team in system and get that ball back.
So it's a 1-point Cardinal lead midway through this first set in Corvallis.
So I was at Mom and Dad's and found this. CDs, baseball cards,
Your old magic set?
and this wrestling ticket, which you still owe me for.
Seriously? $25. I didn't even want to go.
Your diary. Mom says it is totally natural.
$25 is nothing.
Abracadabra, bro.
The Bank of America mobile banking app. The fast, secure, and simple way to send money.
I pledge.
I pledge
I pledge.
To treat everyone
with respect
And dignity.
and dignity. I will not tolerate discrimination.
Or harassment of any kind.
I will speak up, stand up whenever I know discrimination is happening. And I will stand up,
get up, rise up.
rise up for victims.
Take the pledge.
Take the pledge.
Take the pledge at risetowin.org.
Saturday, it's a Pac-12 football conference doubleheader. Coverage begins Saturday at noon with the pregame, all leading up to a 1 p.m. kickoff, presented by Red Robin on Pac-12 Network.
Stanford leading 15-14 midway through this first set. Rich Burke along with Amy Gant. And Oregon State hoping to throw up a dam against the Stanford Cardinal. Have some Formico fans here. Kate Formico. An official proposal. There's Holly Campbell, who's typically the starting middle blocker, one of the two, and she's played in 56 of 57 sets this year. But she's not playing so far in this one, as Courtney Bowen, the senior from Brooklyn, has gotten the nod. To Gravely, and Maddie Gravely with a kill for Oregon State. And for Gravely, that's her first, and OSU's tied it up.
Maddie Gravely, one of the few upperclassmen for Oregon State, has really provided great leadership this season on the floor, kind of teaching those younger players what it means to be a member of the team and kind of what's expected of you on the floor. She's a great example to her team.
Gravely's from Corvallis, went to Sandy M. Christian High School, about 9 miles north of Oregon State. Kayla Ellis, one of the toughest servers on the team. Fitzmaurice off the soft block. Dug by Goings, going for the back row attack. Dug by Hintz, over dig and under down, puts it down.
This crowd loving the effort from Oregon State. They are just attacking from wherever they are on the floor. Nothing to lose. Go back and swing.
Well, we told you off the top, Oregon State's better than the 0-8 conference mark indicates. McClure with a laser beam to even it back up for Stanford. Megan McClure.
Love watching Megan McClure play. She's so fast. She does such a nice job really moving the ball around, finding holes in the block. Such a very smart player and has continued to improve so much for Stanford. She's become just indispensable in the back row as well. One of their best passers, an incredible defender.
Yeah, she was one of their poorer passers last year and one of their better this year. Put a lot of work into it. There's Morgan Hintz, of course, an excellent passer herself. Her perfect pass percentage is up 10 to 15% from last year, so Hintz has worked on it as well. Underdown with a swing, and the block covered up by Ellis, pushed back over by Underdown. There's Fitzmaurice, dug by Ellis. Kayla Ellis having a good first set here. Swing for Goings, off Plummer, kill for Goings. And for Maddie, that's her third.
What's great about both these teams is they're not letting easy points fall. I think each one has got to work for every single play on the floor. You're going to have to come up with a couple swings to get the ball to fall.
First 4 sets to 25. The 5th set, if necessary, would be to 15. To the middle to Bowen. And Courtney Bowen has her third kill for Stanford.
Jenna Gray for Stanford doing a great job putting the ball, locating the ball in the best spot for her hitters. Really finding that open floor, pushing that one so that Bowen had a ton of court to hit into away from a blocker.
Backslide for Gravely. Diving dig by Hintz. Swing for McClure. Free ball coming for Stanford. Good job at Oregon State to keep it alive. To Bowen again. Well, she's quite a weapon for somebody who's only played 13 previous sets this year. Courtney Bowen.
Well, I think that's what's great about Stanford, and especially this year. You know, usually you have teams you have a top team and then you have the bench team, you know, the scout team, and that's how you play practice. But this year, Kevin Hambly decided he was going to integrate all the different hitters on the floor. During practice, there's no starters, there's no backup. Everyone plays in every different spot, and so I think that really benefits every player on the floor. It raises their game because it allows, you know, Catherine Plummer to hit against the top libero in the country. You know, they're not always on the same side, and then players like Bowen, you know, they're in there, and so the whole game of Stanford is raised when you integrate like that.
And Hambly says that this is the first year he's ever done it that way, having the starters practice together only once during the week. Last year, Stanford finished in the Final Four. They lost their match to Florida with a berth on the national championship match on the line. 21st all-time NCAA semifinal appearance for the Cardinal. Jenna Gray, the Pac-12 Setter of the Year. Morgan Hintz, the Libero of the Year. And, of course, Catherine Plummer, ABCA and ESPNW National Player of the Year.
Well, and isn't that interesting what an incredible year they had last year, and yet that loss is what continues to fuel them and fuel their drive. They want to get back to that final match, and they have really been thinking about it every time they step on the floor.
And the only team atop Stanford in the current poll is your alma mater, BYU. Only team to beat Stanford this year. That was way back on August the 31st. There's Maddie Gravely with another kill for Oregon State. Gravely's second.
Oregon State's done a nice job to side out. They really have come back, not let a big run of points go. They've kept it close. That's really all you can ask for in any volleyball matches. You want to keep it close when you get to that 20-point mark. You don't want to have a lot of room and space to make up. And right now, Oregon State right where they want to be.
Montana Gubrud, one of the toughest servers for Oregon State. Gray. It's a great dig by Underdown off the swing by McClure. Swing by Goings into the block of Bowen and Gray. 19-18 Stanford lead.
And that Bowen Gray combo is a huge block there on the outside. If you're hitting against them, you really are not going to have much of a seam, and you're not going to have that sharp cross court. So maybe a higher shot, roll shot, really try to use the block in front of you rather than go around it.
Megan McClure to serve for Stanford. A great pass by Underdown. Swing by Goings using the block. Diving play by McClure. Swing for Plummer. She got dug by Massey. What a fantastic dig right on the dime. Swing for Goings. Dug by Hintz. Swing for Plummer. Into the block. Excellent coverage by Gray. Bumps at Hintz. Swing for Plummer again, and she goes too long.
Three different swings. The defense for Oregon State forcing Stanford to attack again and again and again and not giving up.
It would be a remarkable achievement for Oregon State just to win a set against Stanford.
For anyone all year.
Yeah.
That's all anyone's wanted to do.
They are 50-7 in sets. Pushed over and read well by Massey. Swing for Bennett. Off the block. Formico is there. Swing for Bowen. Right in the middle of three Oregon State players, and Courtney Bowen already has 5 kills.
Yeah, hitting well over 600. No errors. What a great addition in her start already in that first set. A couple big blocks. Some nice transition kills for Courtney Bowen.
Rotates out. Sydney Wilson comes in. Wilson last year as a freshman, 41 sets as a serving specialist. Oregon State needs it. Bennett, led by Formico. Plummer well off the net, into the block. And Oregon State evens it up at 20. Stanford is hitting 222, Oregon State 182.
Well, you see how much Stanford has had to be out of system, and that higher ball allows the big block for Oregon State, who's a very good blocking team. If they have time to set up and put up a well-formed block, they're really going to help their chances.
Sheldon Goings on that block. Plummer got dug by Goings. Massey with the set swing for Underdown, and Bowen there with a block along with Gray. How about Courtney Bowen and the great first set she's had? Pardon me, Tammy Alade. That was Alade, and she has her first block.
Well, and Alade coming in, it looks, you know, she and Bowen both doing an excellent job moving laterally, getting up, closing down that block on the outside.
Now, Alade is a starter typically, unlike Bowen. Sheehan back set, swing for Bennett off the soft block. Here comes Alade again. She got dug by Sheehan. Excellent job by the sprawling Massey going, sends it over. What a play by Oregon State. Swing for Fitzmaurice, and she ends things right there.
Jenna Gray doing a nice job to speed that ball up. The incredible pursuit up from Oregon State. The whole team following, getting that ball back. But the bad part about the whole team following is that no one's there to play defense. It's hard to get back and get set up, and so Stanford takes advantage of that by going quick to Fitzmaurice.
So Stanford with a 2-point lead. And again, Courtney Bowen leads everybody with 5 kills. Elsewhere, Pac-12 volleyball, UCLA 2-0 over Washington in the 3rd set. Oregon took the first set against Cal. That one on Pac-12 Oregon, UCLA Washington on Pac-12 National Network. Stanford sitting atop the standings in the Pac-12. They are 8-0, 16-1 overall. USC with their win at Washington on Wednesday in 4 sets, convincing win, 7-2. Then Oregon and UCLA at 5-3. UW 5-4. Washington State, Arizona State at 4-4.
You know, we're halfway through the conference season, and so those standings, it's amazing how quickly they can change with so much parity in the league and so many high-quality teams. It's just every week is so fun to see exactly how things shake out and who plays who and who ends up upsetting who. Already this year, it's been so fun watching all this talent on the floor.
So Oregon State and Cal, their RPI aren't really in position right now. Colorado's is at 63. They're a possibility. And then you've got Arizona and everybody else at 46 or better. 4 years ago, the Pac-12 had 10 teams in the NCAA tournament. They could do that again this year. And was it a rotation violation on Stanford? It's a point for Oregon State.
Wow, and that's, you know, we saw a foot fault and then out of rotation. That's really something you don't see much, especially from Stanford.
Yeah, Hambly clearly not happy.
Well, especially
it's an ace for Oregon State.
Right, not
and
a time
Grace Massey.
You want to have that, obviously, when it's past the 20-point mark, 23-21.
It's actually 22-22. It's tied at 22.
That comes back to that out of rotation. Very unfortunate call.
Not a great pass there. Plummer out of system. Dug by Massey. What a dig. Swing for under down. Puts Oregon State up 23-22. Really?
Oh, and going back to that play, Stanford at 22-20. They were up 2, and then OSU coming back with 3 huge points. We get a good look at this last one. The incredible defensive effort for Oregon State in this first set has been so fantastic to see. A lot of energy on the floor, tremendous effort, and it's paid off. They're creating opportunities and then converting them.
Oregon State last season, told you they were an NCAA tournament team. They began last year 0-4 in the Pac-12, went 11-5 thereafter. Grace Massey, second in the Pac-12 in digs. A lot of that's because Oregon State has played a lot of sets. Now Massey, fourth in the Pac-12, 4.64 digs per set. Oregon State last season made the NCAA tournament for the second time since 2001. The 4th NCAA tournament appearance in school history. What a great season they had. Mary Kate Marshall, all Pac-12 first team. Kyla McLaughlin, the Pac-12 Freshman of the Year at setter. She's since transferred to Oklahoma to be closer to her family. And Mark Barnard, the Pac-12 Coach of the Year. A lot of players from return from last year. The 2 big losses were McLaughlin and Mary Kate Marshall. So they have some players with some winning experience.
Definitely.
They've been in some matches this year.
Right, and they fight. You know, we talked about it earlier. Oregon State is going to get out there and they're going to fight to the end. And I think paying off so far in this first set is they've played very tough, not afraid at all.
Stanford timeout. Massey to serve. Better pass that time. Gray gets Morris on the backslide. Adriana Fitzmaurice with a big kill to even it up for Stanford.
Stanford needed that. They needed a first ball kill like that. They needed to get that pass up the net, get the ball back quickly to try to come back and score with it all tied up.
Catherine Plummer to serve. Under down, good pass, Sheehan, and Gravely into the block. And Stanford now with a 24-23 lead. Consecutive points following their timeout.
Well, and interesting to see Oregon State have to go to that side. I think they found more success not there on that outside of the court. The block for Stanford has been too tough out there. They want to keep it in the middle.
Can OSU keep this one alive? Get it back even. Swing for Bennett and the block and out of bounds. Oregon State evens it up at 24. And Kayla Ellis, who is one of their best at serving, she puts a ton of pressure on the opponent. She'll be at the service line. Ray has some options. She goes to McClure. Dug by Massey. Her sixth dig. What a match Massey is having going since it over. Dug by Plummer. Aladdin into the solo block of Maddie Gravely. It is set point for Oregon State.
What a defensive effort. Started with the serve, an incredible dig from Massey to pop that ball up and keep it alive. And again, that block for Oregon State has kept them going all year. It's coming up big right now.
Gray, Stanford looks to even it up. Fitzmaurice into the block, covered up by Underdown. Underdown with a chance to win it, and does! Oregon State takes the first set over Stanford.
This crowd feeling that intensity, an incredible effort for Oregon State. They came out, really took control from the very first point, and Stanford struggling to keep that going.
Watch Underdown go to work here. The fight ain't over yet. But David has struck the first blow against Goliath. 26-24 OSU in the first.
You're watching Pac-12 Bay Area, home of the Cal Bears and the Stanford Cardinal. Available on Xfinity.
Proposition 8 threatens the lives of over 66,000 kidney dialysis patients.
If that proposition passes, it's going to cause a lot of lives to be at stake.
If clinics had to close, people like me would die. Proposition 8 literally threatens my life.
If there's not a chair for me, I have to go to the emergency room, because if I do not get dialysis, I will die. Dialysis is life support. Please vote no on 8.
Saturday on Pac-12 Network, we're live from Oregon State for Week 8 on the pregame. Join Mike Yam and the gang on campus for a look ahead to the day's games.
There's a lot of intriguing matchups in college football this weekend, but I don't think any better than this one.
Plus everything happening in Corvallis, showcasing Oregon State traditions, unique cultures, special guests, and any surprises along the way. The pregame, live from Oregon State, Saturday at noon on Pac-12 Network, or download and watch on Pac-12 Now.
Did you shatter their expectations?
Takes the deep shot. Throws complete. Breaking tackle. 89 yards. Touchdown.
Did you rewrite their script?
Ryan looking that way. Steps out. Unloads. Caught. Touchdown Huskies.
Did you take it to another level?
Herbert taking a shot to the end zone. Touchdown.
Did you make it count?
Ball's loose. Burke Urban jumps on it.
This is a playoff contending team in my mind.
What are you gonna do next?
Well, it finally happened, Zachary. Somebody burned down my she shed.
Nobody burned down your she shed, Cheryl.
Well, my she shed's on fire.
Your she shed was struck by lightning.
Zachary, is my she shed covered by State Farm?
Your she shed's covered, Cheryl.
You hear that, Victor? I'm getting a new she shed.
She shear?
Mm-hmm.
That's wonderful news.
Go with the one that's here to help life go right. State Farm.
It's just the 7th set Oregon State has taken from Stanford from back in 2004. OSU takes the first game 26-24. 24. Second set coming up. Oregon State second in the conference to Stanford in blocks per set, 2.63. OSU had 3 blocks, but along with the stuffs, they slowed a lot of balls down.
And I think that's a great point. It wasn't so much the stuff blocks. Yes, they had 3, and they came at some pretty critical times for Oregon State, but it was the blocking in general. When they didn't get soft blocks, they were there channeling the ball to the defense, allowing the defense to really line up well. Oregon State with 21 digs in that first set. Neither team attacking at a really high percentage. I think it was much more of a defensive effort on both sides of the floor.
21 digs for Oregon State, led by Grace Massey with 7. 19 digs for Stanford. Morgan Hintz has 8. You look at Stanford with 4 service errors, and then they had a violation, a line violation, and a rotation violation. That's 6 free points for Oregon State in that first game.
And I'm just going back to when it was 22-20 Stanford, and they get called for out of rotation, which is, you know, something you never see, especially after both teams have hit that 20-point mark. It's very rare to get called out of rotation in that instance. And after that, it was all Oregon State. You know, they took that momentum and they just kind of ran with it.
All right, now let's see what a team that has a legitimate shot at the national championship, how they can respond to that here. They hadn't lost a set since back on October 5th when they lost the second set at Utah.
Well, in talking to Coach Bernard, he said, you know, we want to, what did he say, make Stanford mad, annoy them. He wanted to just kind of poke them enough.
He didn't know how, but he wanted to do it.
He wanted to do it. I think they're sufficiently annoyed, and they're put in a position, like you said, that they haven't been in a lot this season. How will they respond?
And there's Bowen responding. She's been a real bright spot for Stanford in this one. That's her 6th kill. Tops in the match, both squads combined. By the way, Oregon State has never beaten Stanford, and they've taken them to 5 sets 3 times. 1986, 2000, and 2002. Here's Goings. Off the block, covers it up herself. Bennett sends it over. Dug by Formico. Bump set by McClure. Swing for Plummer. Into the double block. Another swing for Plummer. Off the block. And down. So Catherine Plummer with a kill. Plummer with 5 kills, although hitting just 0.62.
Right, and Plummer being that outlet for every out-of-system play, right? You've got sets coming over your head. You've got a big block in front of you. She really does a nice job making those decisions of when to use a particular play.
Into the double block of Plummer and Alade. Well done for Stanford. Go back to the serve of Sydney Wilson that led to that.
Right, exactly. And Alade moves so well laterally. She's so quick and jumps and gets up and is able to read well. She's a great blocker for Stanford.
Wow, Wilson puts a lot of pressure on the defense with those tough serves. Swing for Bennett, and didn't get the touch and went long.
And every time Bennett goes up to swing, she is going for broke. She is just going to hammer that ball and unload, and she's been very successful doing that, trying to get hands on that one and just missing.
Haley Bennett, whose mom Helen also played for Oregon State 1987 through 1990. Rotation violation against Oregon State.
I really have never seen that many calls.
That's twice in one match. You might see that once every 5 matches, maybe.
Well, and especially at this level, you rarely see overlap called, which is probably why the teams are so shocked about it. They've been lining up the same way all season.
There's Alade and Gray on the block again. I think the bear has been sufficiently poked.
I think so. But the Oregon State, you know, we talked about them before. They're a team that never gives up and they fight. So they are going to come out of this timeout ready to fight back in.
A 6-0 Stanford lead here in the second game.
Home of the Cal Bears and the Stanford Cardinal. You're watching Pac-12 Bay Area.
Saturday, the Golden Bears visit the Pacific Northwest as they look to rain on Oregon State's parade. Coverage begins Saturday at noon with the pregame, all leading up to a 1 p.m. kickoff on Pac-12 Network, presented by Red Robin.
Pac-12 original programming, 12 greatest.
Puckett, what a super player.
Football in 60.
And the true freshman might go.
And The Drive.
End zone, he's home.
Watch the latest episodes anytime on Pac-12 Now. Pac-12 Hour Stories, bringing you the most compelling and emotional stories from around the Conference of Champions. Host Kate Scott takes you behind the curtain, sitting down and covering the Pac-12 correspondence.
Yogi, fantastic stuff. Thank you.
Sharing impressions of the student athletes.
Robert, if you could leave our viewers with one final message, what would you want to say to them?
Never give up.
Coaches and personalities who drive the storylines. Pac-12 Hour Stories. Watch the latest episode anytime on Pac-12 Now. Download Pac-12 Now and watch anytime.
Stanford leads the second set 6-0. 8 days ago at Utah, Oregon State trailed the second set 9-2, came back to force it to a 32-30 loss in that second set before winning the third and the fourth. Maddie Goings into the block, covered up by Massey. Haley Bennett swing from the outside. And Haley Bennett comes up with a kill for Oregon State. That's her fourth.
He said Bennett's going to go up and hammer that ball. Absolutely tattoos the line there. Terrific shot into the corner.
Injured in the third set 4 weeks ago at Oregon. Right knee and foot injury. Still wearing a brace on her right leg. But it hadn't affected her mobility or jumping ability. And a service error on Maddie Goings. That is the second service error of the match on Oregon State.
Only the second is pretty surprising.
Yeah.
Which means, you know, because they were going to come out in that first set and just really take some chances from behind the service line. So shows how successful they were at doing that. They were able to keep the ball in and put that pressure.
Barnard told us they had to be aggressive and just hope that they didn't miss half their serves, and they haven't so far tonight. There's under down, into the block. Goings was there. Massey sends it over. Swing by Plummer. That was an absolute bullet. Goings couldn't dig it.
Well, in that quick go set to the outside for Plummer, she's able to really get on it quick and attack that seam that is going to be there when you set a ball that quick to the outside. The middle has no time to get out and close.
So Oregon State typically this year has been sending some of their outsides more toward the middle of the net, and it's been effective at times. And Kevin Hambley told us he was looking forward to seeing how his team would respond to that. But have you seen much of that tonight out of them?
Yeah, that's a good point. You know, they haven't run that. A particular play that they've liked is, you know, running the middle on a three and then bringing in the outside hitter on a high two ball. But I think their outsides have had enough success that they haven't had to go to that quite yet.
And using the block. Plummer gets dug by Massey. Back row attack, Goings. Maddie Goings gets another back for Oregon State. That's her fourth kill, making it 8-3.
Credit the defense again for Oregon State to pop that ball up, allow themselves more opportunities to swing at the ball as OSU just tries to chip away at that lead.
Too strong for Massey. Back-to-back service errors on OSU.
Well, and I think the danger for Oregon State as they try to fight their way back in is maybe trying to do too much with one play. You know, go back behind the serve and feeling like you've got to make up that whole 6-point deficit in one swing, and really patience is very important.
Catherine Plummer with the ace. That is her 14th of the year against 30 service errors. Going after under down. Haley Bennett. And there's Alade and McClure with the block.
McClure lining up really well. She does a nice job with her eyes to track the hitter, track the setter, and get in good position to take away that favorite shot.
Is some of this an emotional letdown for Oregon State after that first set win?
Well, I think that's a good point. Emotion can only last you so long. At some point, you've got, you know, it can only take you through, and they really were on a high that whole first set. But at some point, you've got to settle in and play your game. The unfortunate thing for Oregon State when you're going up against a Stanford is that you need every player on the court to be at their peak.
Kayla Ellis back to serve, senior from Pocatello, Idaho. Until about the midway point of last season, she was libero. Mark Barnard says maybe better suited to defensive specialists. Sometimes can be too intense. And the in and out of being a defensive specialist gives her a chance to calm down a little bit, take a mental break. And Ellis, since moving to DS, has been excellent.
Well, and she has become, this is Oregon State's best scoring rotation. You know, with Ellis back there serving, she provides a nice, tough serve that gets Stanford out of system and allows Oregon State to come back and get a couple points, and they need 3 right now.
They usually score a lot of points out of Ellis's rotation. Swing from McClure, and McClure comes up with a kill for Stanford. That's her 3rd.
Stanford really settling into their side-out game at this point. They've got a lot of first ball kills, and then here you have coming back in Courtney Bowen, who hitting close to 800. She has no errors. She has been that leader on the floor. Look for her to get the ball a ton in this series.
And again, no Holly Campbell, who's healthy, just Courtney Bowen playing instead of her. Campbell missing just her 2nd set all year by not playing in the first. And Courtney Bowen playing her 14th and now 15th sets. Patty Sheehan, back row attack by Goings. Dug by Hintz very nicely. Swing by Plummer into the solo block of Gravely. Pushed over by Bowen, and a kill for Courtney Bowen. She now has 7.
Great reflexes in net play for Stanford as that ping-ponged off each other to get that ball back down.
Oregon State takes their final timeout here in this 2nd set. OSU won the first game 26-24, but how about the match so far for Courtney Bowen of Stanford? Again, not playing much, but Courtney Bowen has had a great one here so far tonight for Stanford. She's there on the right of your screen with the Gatorade bottle, just putting it down. Now, by the way, Courtney Bowen, a full-time job in June for a finance and consulting company, Altamont Capital. She had an internship last summer. Matter of fact, she missed Stanford's trip to Europe because she had that internship.
It's amazing. So many opportunities when you go to Stanford, and Bowen just a perfect example of that student athlete.
Hey, coming up on Saturday, the pregame will be right here in Corvallis as tomorrow at noon, and then Cal at Oregon State at 1 o'clock, and then USC at Utah at 5 o'clock. Oregon State looking for their first conference win. Beavs coming off a bye week, and Cal needs 3 wins in their final 6 games to be bowl eligible, seeking their first bowl berth since 2015. And then USC at Utah, both teams at 4-2. USC at home last week dealt 19th ranked Colorado their first loss, 31-20. That's on Pac-12 Network and the Pac-12 Now app. Oregon State won the first set. Yeah, that is not a misprint. Stanford had lost just 7 of 57 sets this year. And OSU won the first set 26-24. Sheehan to Gravely, into the block, and Gravely still gets the kill.
There's that middle of the court kind of trying to go after. Find some seams in the block, but that block really well formed for Stanford. But Oregon State finds a way to trickle it through.
Amy Underdown, the Northeastern University transfer. Swing for Fitzmaurice. Off the block and out of bounds. Adriana Fitzmaurice.
Such a quick set and a smart play. Obviously the mismatch. Fitzmaurice at 6'6", 6'7", going after Goings, who is only 5'9". Definitely an opportunity to try to find some holes in the block there.
Now what a weapon Adriana Fitzmaurice is. Swing for Goings, into the double block again. This time Bowen and Gray. Now Maddie Goings at 5'9". She plays taller because her wingspan is 6'2", and she can jump, but that didn't help her there.
Right, she's got long arms and jumps really, really well.
OSU out of system, sent over by Underdown. Lots of options here for Gray. She dials up McClure, into the double block. Excellent coverage by Stanford. Off the soft block, Underdown, put it in a good position for Sheehan. Pushed over by Goings, read well by Plummer. Bowen with the swing off the block and out of bounds. And another one for Courtney Bowen, number 8.
Great defensive effort on both sides of the floor. Morgan Hentz coming in with an incredible coverage, allowing her team multiple opportunities. And that's what's so great about Hentz, is she just continues to just open it up for her team to play longer in these matches. She betters the ball every time.
Punch to the back, and there's a kill for Goings. You can really credit excellent coverage by Maddie Sheehan and Grace Massey on that point. Sheehan coming off the serve when it rolled over the court.
Yeah, that was a very tough serve to get, really using the equipment well.
17-6 Stanford as they look to regain command in this one. Back row attack by Plummer. Catherine Plummer at 6'6" with that heavy arm coming out of the pipe. Not a lot you can do there.
Well, and good pass from Formico. Oregon State really trying to focus on somebody, and that's what's tough about Stanford is that they have so many great passers on the floor. It's tough to know where to serve to try to exploit something.
McClure's serve, pass by Underdown. Lindsay Shell off the slide, had a miss hit earlier for a point. That miss hit goes wide.
Stanford really starting to roll here in this second set as we wondered how they would be coming out after losing the first one, but clearly they found their groove quickly and were able to kind of settle down and get back to business.
Pushed over by Sheehan. Excellent job by Hintz to read that. She was on the move even as Sheehan went up. Quick to the middle to Gravely. And to Shell, pardon me, who finds the floor. Lindsay Shell, her second kill.
Sheehan did a nice job at a transition to find her middle hitter. You know, it's all of these setters, there's so much going on in their head. You have to think about so many different things with location and tempo and who's up front and how to make those decisions. And Sheehan's done an excellent job in just her first year as a setter.
Yeah, it's really remarkable that she's able to do it at the collegiate level in the Pac-12. There's Bowen with a kill, number 9.
Yikes, keep feeding Courtney Bowen. Hitting 800, 9 for 10, leading her team in kills as a senior middle.
Courtney Bowen, told you she has a job coming up, an econ major. She'll be working in June for Altamont Capital. By the way, she likes long-distance bike rides. She's biked from Massachusetts to Maine and from Seattle to San Francisco. Then it pushes over toward the back corner. McClure was there. Gray sets up Catherine Plummer for another kill, her 8th.
Stanford really finding a good rhythm offensively. Their transition game working well. Jenna Gray has done a nice job setting the tempo in the second set and really feeding different players on the floor to disrupt the block.
Overpass by Goings, and Plummer. I think there might have been a bit of anger in that one after having lost that first set. That was with authority.
Well, I think Plummer's just such a silent assassin there on the outside, always so cerebral, trying to figure out her next play. She's got so many different shots and decides really well when to use each one of them.
Bennett trying to do something out of system. Diving dig by McClure. Formico is there. Plummer going back line and goes long.
Just missing that back line, and here's an opportunity for Oregon State. You know, maybe at this point the second set is a tough one to come back to if we're being honest about it, but it's all about momentum, and if Oregon State can get back and try to get some more confidence that they can take into the third, that will really help them. So here's a chance for them to get back in the attack mode and just go for it.
McKenna Brown checking in to serve and play some defense for the first time in the match. That's a latte, dug by Massey, set by Allison Hughes, and a kill for Amy Underdown. Allison Hughes into the game at setter for Oregon State. They occasionally will do this at the end of sets to give a break to Maddie Sheehan. McKenna Brown, 6 matches in her first 2 years, 9 sets, plays regularly this year. Swing for Plummer, using the block. Catherine Plummer, 23-9 Stanford.
Plummer with her 10th kill so far this match, and really as this second set has gone on, she's got a lot more comfortable really working the ball well, finding that back line a ton.
Jenna Gray to serve for the Cardinal. Hughes back set, swing for Bennett. Overdig by Gray. Lots of options for Hughes. She goes outside to Underdown, off the block and beyond the end line. Back set, Fitzmaurice. Dug by Massey. What a great job to keep that ball alive. Free ball coming for Stanford. Gray. Back set, Fitzmaurice. Second swing of the rally. Shanked off Hughes' platform, sent over by Massey. Second consecutive free ball for Stanford to the middle to Alade. And Tammy has a kill. That's number 2.
Oregon State trying to keep it alive defensively, but 3 different free balls to Stanford. They are going to continue to kind of shove it down your throats. That time to Alade, that quick 3, and Stanford in good position here, the second set.
Set point for the Cardinal. Underdown takes a swing off the block. Brown was there. Catherine Plummer sends it over. Sent back over by diving Grace Massey. Both teams scrambling right now. And that's it. Stanford wins this second game 25-10. So it was an emotional first set win for Oregon State. Back to business for Stanford. An old-fashioned beatdown in the second set. We got Pac-12 playlist coming up in a moment. And then after that, we'll be back with the third set from Corvallis.
You're watching Pac-12 Bay Area, home of the Cal Bears and the Stanford Cardinal. Available on Xfinity.
When I needed a bank, I wanted someone who aligned with who I am. A challenger who, regardless of size, has what it takes to seize the deal. That's the difference between the small guys and the giants. When you're small, you know you have to be special. Opus Bank offers the capital and counsel you need to take your business to the next level. I know because it's what they do for me. Opus Bank, official partner of Isaiah Thomas and the Pac-12 Conference.
Hi, I'm Alana Smith. I'm majoring in psychology and I play women's basketball at Stanford. The transition from Australia to California actually wasn't that bad. I think California is probably one of the most similar places to Australia. Balancing school and basketball is always a learning process. I mean, I think everyone on our team is continuously trying to do that. Our academic advisors are awesome. They help us with everything, so that's been really cool for me.
Smith feeling it, aggressive offensively, splits a couple of defenders.
My proudest moment for us as a team was when we beat Notre Dame to get into the Final Four. That was incredible. I'd never been. It was just unreal to be able to do that and make it to the Final Four. I'm Alana Smith. Go Card.
Home of the Stanford Cardinal. You're watching Pac-12 Bay Area.
Hello once again, everybody. Welcome into our San Francisco studios for this Pac-12 playlist. I'm Chris Francis. Hope you're enjoying Volleyball Friday as the season heads into the home stretch. Just about 5 weeks of action left before tournament time. On the basketball court, things are just getting started. Some news today as the preseason watching continues. 2 players from the Pac-12 on the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar Center of the Year list. UCLA's Moses Brown and Oregon's Bull join 19 other players nationwide. From the court, we go to football, and we've got a big day ahead of us here on the Pac-12 networks. Tomorrow at 1 p.m., a great matchup as Oregon State plays host to Cal. The Beavers can score some points, but Cal's strength is on the defensive side. Should be a good one, a chess match in Corvallis, as they say. And we are excited. We'll be live in Corvallis starting at noon with the pregame. Mike Yam, Nigel Burton, Evan Moore. They'll not only preview the Bears and the Beavers, but we'll show you around campus and break down the showdown in the South Division as USC travels to Utah. And that game is 5 p.m. on the Pac-12 network. Starts at noon Pacific tomorrow. Join us for that. That is the quick version of the playlist. I'm Chris Francis. Back to your match in just minutes.
You're watching Pac-12 Bay Area.
Wish you were here to see how bright the human spirit can shine, to see that no matter what nature does, people will do more. With one of the industry's largest catastrophe response teams, State Farm will always be among the first to arrive and the last to leave. To help show that human nature is greater than nature, State Farm, here to help recovery go right.
My name is Bill Shen, and I'm a director at Encore Consumer Capital. I was working in the food industry, and thanks to a mentor of mine, I was turned on to the natural and organic product side of the industry, and I realized this is how I can make an impact on the world around me, by ensuring that a broad audience of consumers have access to natural, organic, and healthy foods and products. It's an absolutely incredible feeling to see someone buy our product, use our product, and to know that we had a small part in helping a small company, an entrepreneur, a founder, grow that business and reach that consumer and help him or her make a better choice. I feel really fortunate to be a part of the Stanford family. I feel an incredible sense of gratitude to the university. And of course, I continue to be a Stanford fan. My name is Bill Shen. I'm from the great Stanford class of 1998. Go Card!
Set your favorites. Set your alerts. Download Pac-12 now and watch Pac-12 networks anytime.
Back here in Corvallis, Gill Coliseum, Stanford lost the first set, just the 8th set they've lost this year. But then they came back to dominate Oregon State in the second set, 25-10. Rich Burke along with Amy Gant. And there are the numbers overall. In the second set, Oregon State had 7 kills, 7 attack errors. They hit 0. Meanwhile, Stanford hit 481.
Right. Stanford had 5 blocks, and really everything rolled for them in that second set. But the great thing about volleyball, my favorite set is always the third.
And why is that?
Well, it kind of resets the game. And obviously now they have a shorter break in between. They don't go to their locker rooms, but everything's brand new. It's almost like a new match, and whoever wants to come out with the tempo and attack, it's open for them.
At this point, it's a best of 3. Bennett into the block. Plummer and Alade, and Bennett with a kill.
Talked about Bennett being injured earlier in the season. Having her come back has been so good for Oregon State because they really have multiple options there, antenna to antenna.
Gray going to Plummer. Overdig by Goings. Alade was there. Bennett off the soft block. Dug by Hintz. Swing for Plummer. And another kill for Catherine Plummer. Plummer in the first 2 sets had 10 kills, 4 in the first, 6 in the second. That's her first year in the third.
Right, and 29 attempts for Catherine Plummer. She is the player that gets almost every set when they are out of system. It's going to go to Plummer.
Huge window, frequently making something out of nothing. Good pass by Underdown. Sheehan going to Bennett, and there are Plummer and Alade for the block. And for Stanford, that is their 11th block in the match.
It was a good push to the outside. Bennett really wanting to go line on that play, but Plummer all over it.
So what is Stanford doing differently now that they didn't do in the first set?
Well, I think they've settled down. They are not making as many unforced errors, and Oregon State is making a few more errors than they did in that first set. That first set, Oregon State played really, really well all across the board.
Back row attack by Goings into the double block. Bennett into the block of Alade and Plummer, but the block goes out of bounds.
And Alade working hard to move laterally, but as you move laterally, you've got to press over the net. And she's moving, but her hands just not quite getting over in time.
A 3-2 Cardinal lead here in the second set. Plummer pushes it over, dug by Ellis. Sheehan goes outside to Underdown. Off the cord, touched by Fitzmaurice. Swing for the setter Sheehan and a kill. How about Maddie Sheehan? Former outside hitter.
Kevin Hambley's gonna challenge that play, wondering if there was a touch on the block at the net.
Going back to when Fitzmaurice
Yeah, we'll have to see. He's going to hold that card.
So it would be.
Yeah, she's waving her hand saying, I didn't touch that ball. It would be 4 contact.
It would be 4 hits for Oregon State.
Yeah, so Fitzmaurice, you could see on that play we saw, she kind of waves her hand indicating that she didn't touch that ball. It's the first challenge we've had in this match as we get a good look. You can watch and see if Fitzmaurice touches the ball or if it just hits the net. That is really tough to see.
Hard to tell from there. And the call was that she did touch it. I don't know that there's enough evidence to say otherwise. And so Hambly issuing the challenge card to our down official, Tony Chan.
And then, you know, both these coaches using this time as a chance to talk to their teams on the floor, to use it as a timeout, to figure out next steps and what's going to go on as they're trying to, you know, make those adjustments to stick to the game plan in this third set.
Hey, coming up on Sunday, we've got field hockey on Pac-12 Bay Area as 20th ranked Stanford hosts Cross Bay rival Cal. Coverage begins Sunday at 1 o'clock on Pac-12 Bay Area, or download and watch wherever you might be on Pac-12 Now. Tony Chan has the same angles we do. Another look, did Adriana Fitzmaurice touch this? And she immediately held up 4 fingers as if to say that's 4 hits. I didn't touch it.
That is so close. That may be the best angle.
That is the best angle.
But it's tough. If it was her pinky. Very, very close. And you look at this third set, kind of starting like the first one, where both teams kind of trading side outs, back and forth, keeping it close.
And this is taking a long time right here. To whose advantage is this? Oregon State's?
You know, I feel like we're so early in the third set that the momentum was, you know, even to begin. I don't think anyone had really established any sort of tempo. You know, already we saw in the first set just how important the crowd is. That home crowd, so important. I think this Oregon State crowd really helped their team, you know, continue and gave them a lot more emotion. And emotion can take you where sometimes skill can't.
And the call goes Stanford's way, so indeed ruled not to be a touch for Fitzmaurice, which results in 4 hits for Oregon State. It's a 4-2 Cardinal lead. And Catherine Plummer back to serve. Catherine Plummer, you'd think future Olympian.
Yes, but which?
Yeah.
Indoor, outdoor. She is so good at full sports.
Gill for under down. Plummer back to the service line. Catherine Plummer's brother Christian has won up. Well, they've each won a national title. And Christian did it at the NAIA level. There's under down into the block of Fitzmaurice and Alade, and that's the 12th block of the match for Stanford.
You know, and it's interesting to have Oregon State continue to go with that fast set to the outside. I don't think that is a good option for them, because the block for Stanford does a nice job of kind of sealing off those seams. And I think the higher the ball allows Oregon State a chance to kind of work maybe using the high hands or finding some different spots on the court. They need more range. So I think the higher set is going to be the way they want to go to find success.
7 service errors now for Stanford. Under down serve. Good pass by Hands. Back set. Fitzmaurice dug by under down. Sheehan pushing it outside to Goings. Into the block of Fitzmaurice and Alade, but out of bounds.
You love Maddie Goings just getting up and hammering. She is so powerful, gets a lot of intensity out of her approach, gets the most out of that.
Now has 6 kills against 5 attack errors. Great dig by Ellis. Back row attack. Under down. Amy under down. Coming up big here so far in this third set. That's her 8th kill overall.
Good comeback. Oregon State keeping this close here in the third set. Trying not to let Stanford get too far ahead. Not allow too many runs.
McClure dug by Ellis. Kept alive by Massey. Free ball for Stanford. McClure again. Into the block. Excellent coverage by Stanford. And Gray. Well done again by Fitzmaurice. And the kill for McClure. Stanford earned that one.
Right, and McClure earned that one. How many different swings did she have to take? And Stanford refusing to give up, continually just attacking over and over.
Morgan hints back to serve. Alade out. Bowen in at middle blocker for Stanford. Gravely. Good coverage there by Gray. Bump set by Hintz. Swing for Plummer. Dug by Ellis. Sheehan. Outside to Goings again. Hard angle attack. And Goings another kill. That's 7.
Goings really mixing it up a little bit, hitting a lot of line as we get a good look at another great defensive effort from Oregon State. And Goings finding that sharp cross court. She's off the net, had to really contort her body to find that spot, but incredible move to get them within 1.
Montana Gubrud, the junior out of McMinnville, Oregon, a little bit north of here, serves. Swing for McClure. Off the block, using high hands. You like that, don't you, Amy?
I love it. Nice swing, McClure, and she really such a smart player there on the outside. She keeps it high, always uses the block and sees those hands really well.
Kate Formico to serve for Stanford. Saratoga, California native, that great program at Archbishop Mitty High School. Pushed over by Sheehan. How about Maddie Sheehan, averaging about a half a kill per set.
Well, and if you're a setter, anytime you decide to go over on 2, it better go down. There's not a lot of leeway, and Sheehan picking the perfect opportunity to turn and attack that ball. No defensive player for Stanford anywhere near it.
Advantage there in being a left-handed setter. Swing for Sheehan, for Shell, and Lindsay Shell with a kill. That's her 3rd.
Here comes Oregon State. You feel the momentum, the crowd starting to get involved. And the players finding that confidence, knowing they can play with this Stanford team.
There's McClure. Megan McClure with an absolute bullet.
Well, tremendous job because Stanford very out of system. Having to go to McClure on the outside. Talk about bettering the ball that set off the net. She didn't have a ton of space, and she's able to find a kill.
Service error there. That is the 8th of the match for Stanford. Stanford had 4 service errors, a line violation and a rotation violation in that first set loss. There's Courtney Bowen with another kill. She has 10, one shy of Catherine Plummer for the match high for either squad.
That's the first kill that Bowen has been able to get, and that's a missed opportunity for Stanford. They really didn't have the passes in that series to get Bowen as many balls as they would have liked to.
She comes out, Sydney Wilson in, a defensive specialist. Pushed over by Shell. Here's Plummer into the double block. Bennett and Shell. Fourth block of the match for Oregon State.
Yeah, the first since that first set. They had none in the second set and haven't had any until this point. Bennett really taking away that line. You can see her holding up that right hand. She took away one of Plummer's favorite shots.
Out of system again. Back row attack from McClure, dug by Massey. Sheehan going to under down. Over dig by McClure. Sheehan back set. Haley Bennett into the block of Plummer. Tammy Alade there as well. Catherine Plummer got her hands on that one. Right. 13 blocks for Stanford.
Exact same play right there. Both those hitters trading blocks. Bennett got Plummer, and then Plummer turns around and returns the favor.
One of the great reasons why Kevin Hambley has his starters practice together only one day in practice week is so that Plummer gets to hit against Adriana Fitzmaurice. And there's under down, getting Oregon State back even again.
That scrappy defense for Oregon State, kind of mixing it up. Great save for Bennett, and Oregon State finding a way as they continue to just create opportunities. Make a defensive play, allow your team more than one chance to take a swing at the ball, and good things will happen.
Fitzmaurice off the slide, dug by Ellis, tight to the net, the joust, and it's won by Oregon State and Maddie Sheehan.
Tough play. You could see trying to go from that Alade, anticipating it would be a little higher. It just sneaks right underneath her hands.
Stanford one loss this year, August 31st to BYU. They are 16-1 in their 16 wins. They have not been taken to a fifth set.
And you know, it's interesting talking to Coach Hambley about all these different teams and each different match. He wants, every time he steps on the floor, he wants his team to be challenged. He wants every single team that they play to, you know, pose something new, attack them from a different angle, try to exploit them, because that's an opportunity then for them to go back to the drawing board and try to figure out how to make themselves better.
Adriana Fitzmaurice with her 5th kill. Well, they'll have some drawing board work to do after this one, regardless of the outcome. And Hambley getting his wish because he's certainly receiving a challenge from Oregon State. We're going to have a different kind of challenge here. Challenging a net contact. Stanford with a 13-12 lead. We'll see if it sticks. There might have been a Stanford jersey brushing the net.
It's interesting to see here, you know, this is our second challenge of this set, and very different challenge as far as the point in the match.
Yeah, first one came at 3-3.
Right, where nothing really going on, not a big shift in momentum and score. At this point, Oregon State keeping it very close. They've got some momentum. They're kind of feeling good. This would be a really big win for them to get this challenge and take that confidence and kind of roll it into hopefully a couple points.
Saw the net bouncing there, but the ball hit the net on the serve. Another look at it. So the net was bouncing. Still bouncing up and down. Now this was where the possible net violation occurred, and if it looked like Fitzmaurice's jersey may have hit the net there, which would be a pretty chippy net violation.
You know, it's so hard to tell, and credit the officiating crews over these past few years as challenges have been instituted. A lot of pressure, and they really do a nice job to make sure they get it as right as they possibly can.
Hey, coming up tomorrow, the pregame will be right here in Corvallis. The entire crew. That'll be at noon, and then 1 o'clock, Cal and Oregon State. At 5 o'clock, USC and Utah. Cal coming off their 37-7 loss to UCLA. Bears will look to snap a 3-game losing streak. Meanwhile, USC and Utah had commanding wins over Stanford and Arizona past couple of weeks. They're 4-2, and the Trojans are 4-2. Point sticks with Stanford. Catherine Plummer, ESPNW and ABCA National Player of the Year last year. As a sophomore. Yeah, she'll still be here next year. And there's Underdown, Amy Underdown, who
there's
is
that
a junior
too.
transfer from Northeastern.
Yeah, there's that 2 play we were talking about earlier. Stanford knew it was coming, but it didn't look like it. Nobody was prepared, not a blocker available as Oregon State brought their outside into the middle of the court.
First time we've seen it, I believe. That time Underdown serve goes long. 14-13 Stanford. Oregon State telling us that they wanted to serve aggressively and take their chances. Going to have to take risks if you're going to make a run at Stanford. Just 4 service errors for OSU to 8 for the Stanford Cardinal. Sheehan dialing up Goins, who tips it over. Gray read it well, bumps that hit, swing for Plummer. Dug by Massey, right on the dime. Sent over by Sheehan, and another kill. That's her second this set. Boy, what an advantage to have a left-handed setter.
Oh, so nice, and great job from Massey to not only dig that ball, but to pop it up in such a way that the team was in system. Sheehan was able to disguise her swing until the last second, and then turns and fires away with that swing.
They keep track of passes, that is serve receives on the dime. Do they keep track of digs on the dime?
I know, exactly.
Because that was.
It was beautiful, allowing you to run whatever offense that you want.
Service error on Gubrud. Montana Gubrud coming into this match. 3 aces, only 2 service errors. That's her first service error in this one. It's a 15-14 Stanford lead here in the third.
So State Farm will be here to help protect our home.
Of course.
What about here?
Yep. Nice.
Okay. Here?
Mm-hmm.
Who puts tinfoil in the microwave? Here? Here? Here?
Feels a little awkward.
A little. Here?
You too.
So cold.
Mm-hmm. Go with the one that's here to help life go right. State Farm.
This Sunday, it's the game of the week. Gear up to watch women's soccer as the Buffs take on the Card at Stanford. Coverage starts at noon on Pac-12 Network.
Saturday, it's a Pac-12 football conference doubleheader. Coverage begins Saturday at noon with the pregame, all leading up to a 1 p.m. kickoff, presented by Red Robin on Pac-12 Network.
Pac-12 Women's Volleyball is brought to you by State Farm, here to help life go right. Well, it isn't the route that we thought it was going to be. Oregon State won the first set over Stanford, just the 8th set Stanford has lost this year in 58 games. Stanford beat down in the second set, and a 15-14 Stanford lead here in the third. Stanford's Courtney Bowen getting a start and playing really well, hitting .750 with 10 kills. Morgan Hintz, the libero, with 14 digs, and there's Bowen, who was starting in place of Holly Campbell, and she's done really well.
Well, and blocking and offense for Bowen. She was fantastic in that first and second set. Unstoppable. Her block, incredible. And they were finding a way to get her, especially at a transition. She did a really nice job to make herself available.
Talented and smart. I mean, she goes to Stanford, right? She's an econ major, has a job in June lined up for a finance and consulting position with Altamont Capital. There's a double block. Oregon State going into the block again. Boy, Stanford just putting up a wall there with Bowen and McClure.
3 different blocks in that series alone. Oregon State trying to keep that ball up. Great coverage, but in the end it was just too much.
And there's Goings, and it's again. This time it's Gray and Bowen.
Bowen reading that, you know, we saw earlier Oregon State going to that set in the middle for their outside and no one around for Stanford. Great adjustment for them, especially Bowen, to track that, to recognize that she had that outside hitter coming around.
Lindsay Shell comes up with a kill for Oregon State. Shell with her 4th. Get OSU back within 2. Lindsay Shell from Temecula, California, Temecula Valley High School. 6'2" middle blocker. Now, 6'2" isn't big by Stanford standards, but it is for Oregon State. There's Bowen pushing it over. Underdown was there. Sheehan quick to the middle to Shell, who finds another kill. That's 5 for her.
And I think for Oregon State, really continuing to attack in the middle of the court is where they're going to find more options. You've got, you know, either side to hit to. You can go wrist away or across court. Usually you don't have a big triple block in front of you, and so that's an option for Oregon State.
Big kill for Megan McClure to keep Stanford on top.
McClure with that quick, powerful arm swing and approach. Great vision to get that back corner.
Her mom, Heather, played volleyball in Southern California, Chapman University. Sheehan to Shell. Gray to the middle to Bowen. Massey dug it. Sheehan to Shell again. And how about Lindsay Shell in this recent sequence? That's 3 kills.
Shell's doing a nice job to kind of work around the big block. I mean, we've seen Courtney Bowen. She is a very good blocker, a great, takes away a lot of court, and so doing a nice job to work that ball around her.
Plummer dug by Massey. Oregon State with a chance to tie up the set, late in the set, and there's a dig by Formico. Dig by Massey, tight by Goings, tight to the net, and Bowen took advantage. Courtney Bowen with another one. That's 11.
It is, and that play fortunate to go down. Not exactly usually what you see on an overpass, maybe wanting to just kind of wrist snap that down, but whatever works, and Stanford continues to keep their lead.
11 kills, 6 blocks for Bowen. And again, she played just 13 sets the entire season coming in. Starting in place of Holly Campbell, who's healthy, but Campbell just starting. Bowen tied to the net, pushed over by Gray. In fact, yeah, it was Gray.
Smart play from Jenna Gray. You know, usually you go up and you're expecting a joust, but she decided to go up and over the block to push it deep. Stanford gets to 20 and lengthens their lead to 3.
Timeout taken by Oregon State. Have a look at that last point. Creatively done by Jenna Gray.
Well, and you can see here an opportunity. A lot of setters really like to get that joust as we get a good dig on that a little bit tighter. She could have turned to joust that ball, but tries to just go right over the top and push it deep past the defender.
Jenna Gray, the setter for the Stanford Cardinal. Oregon State, like Stanford, very community-oriented academic institution. And Oregon State has a program called Beavers Without Borders. It's a global service learning experience for OSU student athletes. This is a trip to Guatemala in 2018. You see basketball player Katie McWilliams, softball player Jessica Garcia, Aline Hagstrom, a rower for Oregon State, wrestler Keegan Calkins. This is to Guatemala. And there's Alba Villaranga Casas, who's a cross-country runner and also works on our Pac-12 Network cruise here for some of the events. A great program for Oregon State. They also had a trip to Dominican Republic, and Haley Bennett went there, along with McKenna Brown. A couple of OSU volleyball players. There's Haley.
I think it's so great for the opportunities that they have to expose these student athletes to the world, to give them multiple, opportunities to kind of widen their views on the world and life, and create just kind of well-rounded people as they graduate and go out into the world.
And after all, that's what it's all about. Bennett with a swing, off the block. Haley Bennett using the block to get one back for Oregon State.
And this is where Oregon State's got to push. They've got to get back in. That was a big-time kill for Bennett. Oregon State needed that point, and they need this one just as much. A great opportunity right here for them to really serve tough and try to take one to get back into this.
Short serve by Massey, and the overpass. Oregon State might have missed an opportunity there. Swing for under down, off the block, covered up by Gray. Plummer pushes it over. Goings on the attack, would have gone out, but McClure played it. Maybe there was a touch in the middle. What a great play by Goings there. Here comes under down. Swing for Plummer, into the double block. Excellent coverage by Gray. Bump set by Hance, pushed down by Plummer. Give Plummer enough chances, and she's going to get the job done.
Stanford really out of sorts in that rally, but they got it together there at the end and ended up finishing it. Oregon State continuing, to be that backboard. It hasn't been easy for Stanford offensively. No easy shots. Oregon State is being very, very tough.
This point could tell the tale right here. Difference between 21-19 and 22-18. There's Alade off the block of Gravely, but out of bounds. Tammy Alade with her third kill of the match. 22-18 Stanford. Timeout taken by Oregon State.
Oregon State kind of with a missed opportunity there offensively, forced to give Stanford a free ball that they transitioned easily. Coach Bernard wants to really talk about that, make sure they are playing at their best, really trying to be in sync and in system as they try to come back here.
Yeah, he said big issue has been sustaining the level of play, the energy, and at times they've done it, at times they have not. Freshman of the week in the Pac-12 is Raquel Lothrow of USC. 21 digs against Arizona State, also had a great match in leading them to a win this week, Wednesday, in our match of the week up at Washington. Take a look at all the honors across the conference. Oregon State had a freshman of the week earlier this year in Maddie Sheehan. 3 weeks ago was Holly Campbell of Stanford. And look at all the players represented in this match. Grace Massey, Defensive Player of the Week back the first week of the year. And so many awards for Hintz and Plummer. And by the way, if you were to throw Oregon into that, if you were to highlight them, that would be a wide majority of the awards.
And that's in one of the best conference, arguably the best conference in the country. To come out and to be a player that wins any of those weekly awards means that you are playing well over time, all the time.
Jenna Gray serving for Stanford. Stanford with a legitimate chance at winning the NCAA championship this year. They won it 2 years ago in John Dunning's final year. There's an ace for Jenna Gray.
And we haven't seen very many aces so far in this match. I think both teams doing a nice job in their serve receive to keep their teams relatively in system, at least allowing them one swing at the ball.
Third ace for Stanford, the first for Gray. That's Gravely off the block of Fitzmaurice and Alade. Fitzmaurice and Adriana Fitzmaurice gets Stanford to set point with her 6th kill.
Fitzmaurice showing just her versatility. She played in the middle before this year. She's very good off of 1 foot, so they like to run her behind the setter anytime they get the opportunity.
Final score of this set won't show how close it really was. Oregon State had a chance to tie it up at 18. Stanford won that point, and they haven't lost a point since. Gray going to Fitzmaurice again, off the block of Gravely and under down. Fitzmaurice, third swing of the rally. One-hand dig by Bennett, kept in the air by Sheehan. Swing for Goings, into the block of Alade and Fitzmaurice, and Stanford takes the third game, 25-18.
Like you said, this definitely was a battle here in the third set. Oregon State coming out, putting a lot of pressure offensively and defensively, but Stanford just kind of battling away, and their offense was able to get it done.
So Stanford taking the third game, 25-18. They'll try to close out Oregon State in the fourth set. 1949. 25-18 Stanford win in the third game. I said that they led at one point 19-17. Later 2017, then 2018, and Stanford scored the final 5 points of that set. Oregon State hitting just 108 in this one. Stanford, such a load to deal with.
Yeah, you look at 108 and 16 blocks. Yeah, that'll affect your hitting percentage. Stanford really coming out defensively, I think, to kind of set the stage there. They were very tough at the net blocking, and then they were able to transition out of that once they were able to dig the ball up to the net and get that offensive rhythm going. But credit Oregon State. I think they've really, Stanford's offense is one of the best in the country, and Oregon State has really taken them out of their comfort zone. I think they've really been forced to take 3 and 4 swings in each rally to try to get a point, and that's because the defense for Oregon State has been so good.
Talked about Stanford with the 16 blocks. They had 5 in the first set, 5 in the second, 6 in the third. OSU, the second best blocking team in the conference. And what they did really well in that first set was not necessarily the stuff blocks, but slowing things down at the net.
But they did get 3 stuff blocks in that first set. We've only had 1 stuff block from Oregon State in sets 2 or 3. So blocking is something they would really like to get going.
Let's see now if Oregon State can respond after losing the last 2 sets. What a dig by Maddie Goings. Bennett sends it over. Formico was there. Courtney Bowen dug by Bennett. Swing for under down off the block. Covered up by Massey. Bennett again with the swing. Covered up by Massey. She's everywhere. Swing for Goings. McClure was there. Swing for Plummer. Dug by Massey. How many digs she can have this point alone? Swing for Goings from the back row. Dug by McClure. McClure pushes it over. Bennett with a swing and a kill and a hard-earned point for Oregon State to begin the 4th set.
Right, every point has been so hard-earned. Both these teams breathing hard, working hard in that rally. Incredible defensive effort on both sides.
Pushed over by Gray. Sheehan has set herself, read it well. Swing for under down off the block and out of bounds. 2-0 Oregon State. Rich Burke along with Amy Gadd here at Gill Coliseum. Oregon State 0-8 in Pac-12 play, though they've been in some matches. Stanford 8-0 in Pac-12 play. Stanford in the first set lost at 26-24, just their 8th set loss in 58 sets this year. Then they won the second set 25-10. Pulled away at the end of the third to win 25-18. 6 service errors for Oregon State to 8 for Stanford. Sydney Wilson, sophomore out of Toronto, who played 6 sports in high school, will serve. Volleyball, beach volleyball, soccer, ski racing, taekwondo, and ultimate frisbee. The list for Sydney Wilson. And how about Plummer into the block of Shell and Bennett.
There's that stuff block that Oregon State has been missing in this match. They can get that going. That's going to be huge for them because the offense for Stanford is already working so hard to try to get a ball through their defense.
Down the road, when Catherine Plummer is an Olympian, Bennett Shell can always say, hey, I rejected her. Swing for Bennett. Dug by Formico. Here comes Plummer pushing it for the back corner. Goings was there. Sheehan sitting up under down, off the block and out of bounds. 4-1 Oregon State lead.
Right, and Oregon State really using the block well under down, using her momentum that was kind of taking her out of bounds, moving her laterally to just kind of sneak that ball right off the hands.
Oregon State hitting 300 here in the early going of this set. Swing for Catherine Plummer. Big kill for Plummer for match high 14th.
And Oregon State trying to go short to kind of disrupt the approach and the offense for Stanford, but that one could not have been played better. Beautifully handled. Jenna Gray doing a nice job setting a good high-tempo ball, quick-tempo ball outside to Plummer.
And now she'll serve. Catherine Plummer, by the way, hitting 315 coming in. Excellent for an outside hitter. Hitting just 159 tonight. There's under down. Hentz was there. Gray back set. Fitzmaurice, hard angle attack and goes long. That's Fitzmaurice's second attack error of the match against 6 kills.
I think where Oregon State finds success is as they continue to put pressure on Stanford with their block, with their serve. Stanford is a team that kind of sometimes makes more unforced errors, I guess like everyone in the country, tends to compound their unforced errors. And that, in turn, can just roll for Oregon State as they continue to use this crowd to keep that momentum and the emotion going.
Daniela Vargas checks into play right side for Oregon State, involved in the block there, but it's out of bounds. So Vargas in, Bennett out. Gubrud in, and Sheehan out. So Gubrud will set for Oregon State for the first time. There's Gubrud set, under down with a swing. Big swing for McClure. What a laser beam. Excellent job by Oregon State. Swing for Goings. Into the double block. Kept alive by Alade. McClure coming all the way across the line to try to keep it alive.
And again, Massey is there, just keeping every point alive. Such an incredible libero and defender for Oregon State.
She has 19 digs. Morgan Hentz of Stanford, 16 digs. Gubrud setting up Goings right into the roof of Tammy Alade and Adriana Fitzmaurice.
I think Goings wanted to go a lot quicker on that ball. She was already on her second step before the setter had even set, so maybe it was just a little too high. She's on her way down, hits right into the block.
Gubrud, this time the quick to Gravely, into the block of Bowen and Fitzmaurice.
Bowen once again, great eye work. Fitzmaurice sticking in there, watching their hitters, getting up and over.
18 blocks now for Stanford. 18.
Well, and I think this is where Oregon State's struggling, you know, in that setter's position. They've had so many different setters on the floor. Running the offense, so important, getting it in good spots, in good location. And 3 big blocks for Stanford in a row.
Yeah, make it 19 now on Daniela Vargas' first swing of the match. Swing from McClure into the block of Vargas and Gravely. Excellent coverage by Stanford. Massey with the back set to Goings. High off the hands. Dug by Plummer with the overhead dig. Swing by McClure. Another kill for Megan McClure. Her 9th against no attacking errors.
And what a push all the way outside. Jenna Gray really had to work hard using her whole body to get it all the way outside for McClure to hit that line.
The 19 blocks for Stanford, a new season high. Previous high had been 15.5 against BYU back on August the 31st. It's a 7-6 Stanford lead, trying to close out Oregon State here in the 4th set.
Hi, I'm Jenna Gray, and I play indoor volleyball, beach volleyball, and throw the javelin at Stanford. Being a 3-sport athlete at Stanford takes a lot of moving parts, communication amongst the teams, the coaches, teachers, and everything. Definitely playing the 3 sports, I've had to miss out on some stuff. I practice once a week with the track team. Volleyball is my priority, so I've missed a lot of meets. But all the coaches have been super accommodating, super understanding of my schedules and what I can do, what I can't do. I chose Stanford because they have such great volleyball tradition, and then also academics was extremely important to me. My mom was a teacher, so she always wanted me to push myself in school, and Stanford seemed like the perfect place to do that. Definitely, I'd say the biggest culture shock coming from Kansas would be the food out here. It's more expensive, it's definitely a lot healthier, so I've had some struggles with that. My teammates all make fun of me for it too. I'm Jenna Gray, go Card!
Our State Farm here to help life go right highlights center on Courtney Bowen and the great match the backup middle blockers had.
Right, 11 kills, hitting .588 and 8 huge blocks. She's been such a great offensive weapon, getting up on transition, and wow, such a wall at the net. Stanford with their season high in team blocks, and a big reason for that is Courtney Bowen.
Brooklyn native, out of the Chapin School. We told you that she's got a job lined up in June, finance and consulting job. She also plays the piano and flute. How's that for talent? Fitzmaurice. Dug by Vargas. Swing for Goings. High off the hands and got the touch to even it up at 7. Oregon State was in the first set, and they won the first set, 26-24. They got dominated in the second set. Just a touch on Bowen. And then Oregon State was in the third set. Trailing at 18-17. Stanford won the next point and never looked back in winning at 25-18. McKenna Brown serve. Good pass by Plummer. Quick to the middle to Bowen. Excellent coverage by Gubrud and underdown. Free ball though for Stanford. It's Bowen again, this time down to the floor at a 45-degree angle.
Very quick, that quick transition, and Oregon State really making some adjustments to their personnel to try to shut down this Stanford defense, find a way to get some sort of offense there on the floor as they move to the 6-2.
Gubrud still setting for Oregon State. It's Maddie Goings, hard angle attack, and Goings with a kill. That's her 10th.
I think I made a mistake.
I think Gubru doing a really nice job while she was in there to work hard in that setting position, running all over the floor, trying to put up nice hittable balls.
She comes out. Maddie Sheehan, the starting setter, comes back in. She serves. Good pass by Hands. Quick to the middle to Bowen. Diving dig by Underdown. Quick to the middle to Gravely. Dug by Hands at the net, and Goings puts it down. 9-8 Oregon State.
Oregon State with a little swagger. They've got found some success, have figured out how to get the ball to fall against Stanford. And as the crowd gets involved in this, I think that really helps Oregon State.
And Oregon State now with a 10-8 lead after they have their 6th block of the match. Stanford leads the all-time series 66-0. Oregon State has taken Stanford to 5 sets 3 times, 1986, 2000, and 2002. And it's a 3-point Beaver lead here in the 4th game.
3 quick plays off some unforced errors for Stanford, and for sure Kevin Hambley wants to talk about it.
Kevin Hambley told you that he wanted a challenge from opponents. He wants his team to be challenged, and they're getting one from Oregon State.
I think they're getting everything they want and more.
Stanford Cardinal have won 14 consecutive. They're 16-1 overall. Their only loss coming back on August the 31st. UCLA won at Washington. So Washington loses both at home to the LA schools. Washington came into this week ranked 19th. They could be out of the top 25 after this week, possibly. Oregon swept Cal. Cal will be here at Oregon State on Sunday. Now, for Oregon State, you got to give them a lot of credit. Amy sees some other scores there as Utah beat ASU and Arizona over Colorado. Oregon State could have been looking ahead to a quote-unquote winnable match on Sunday against Cal, essentially looking past a national championship qualifier in Stanford, but they haven't done that. Washington State leading USC.
What a great job for them in this 4th set to kind of move to the 6-2. They had struggled in sets 2 and 3 to get offense going, and so moving to the 6-2 allows them to always have 3 hitters in the front row, have a bigger block, and more offensive options.
Let's see, Oregon State was 10-2 in non-conference play. A few weeks back, they had a chance taking the first 2 sets against Washington, but they let that one get away here at home, and then last week they lost 3-2 at Utah.
Well,
Stanford, meanwhile, hadn't been touched.
Sorry, and it was so interesting looking at that graphic. I mean, you look at the top of the conference, the bottom of the conference. You would think that there would be a ton of difference there, but just the parity in the league and the high level of play means that anyone at any night can beat anyone.
Conference of Champions, so good. Diving play by Massey. Bennett sends it over. Free ball coming for Oregon State as they look to move up by 4. Sheehan back set. Bennett gets dug by Hands. Over dig. Sent over, and what a great play by Bowen. What a great play.
Well, Bowen just kind of punching that to the backcourt, and that's a fortunate play for Stanford because everything about what Oregon State was giving them, Stanford was struggling to control. Their passes were too tight to the net. Their digs, they weren't controlling. They're very lucky to get that point.
Can OSU get a critical side out? Excellent opportunity here on the free ball for Stanford. Big swing by Plummer off the block. And then the ball hit the pin.
Smart play again from Plummer to use that ball out of bounds. And Plummer is just taking so many swings, as she always does, but 47 attempts for the outside hitter.
Bennett well off the net. And how about Haley Bennett rolling it over the top of the net from well off the net?
Yikes, when you keep a hitter off the net, they've got a ton of court to hit into. They've got more angles, and how she pulled that angle off surprised the defense for Stanford.
You got to hand it to Oregon State. They have stared down the Cardinal, and they have not blinked. Bowen with another kill. 14 for her. They're hoping that Holly Campbell, who's not played tonight for Stanford, develops into the offensive option that she was in high school. Courtney Bowen giving them offense out of the middle blocker position tonight.
Well, I think Stanford a very deep team. They've got a ton of talent from top to bottom, and so a good opportunity to give different players different looks.
And a service error for Kate Formico. There's Holly Campbell. Played all but one set coming into this match.
Yeah, she looks like she's warming up. Ready to go in if her number's called.
True freshman out of Austin, Texas, Westlake High School. Service error for Grace Massey. The two teams exchange errors. Oregon State wanting to serve tough. Massey coming into this one, 17 aces against 28 errors.
And they say they want to serve tough and that they'll deal with those errors, but you can see the coaching staff on that particular one way out of bounds, kind of shaking their head, hoping for that one back.
Great pass by Going. Sheehan backs at Bennett. Off the hands, dug by Hintz. Stanford unable to keep it alive. 14-12 Oregon State lead here in the fourth game, trying to force Stanford to a fifth.
Well, I think it's a great job from Bennett while she was in there. Good series for her. She definitely was the hot hand and the player that wanted to get set and was in the groove. Can they find someone else now that she's rotated?
Stanford out of system. Diving play by Ellis. Swing by Underdown. Amy Underdown with a kill. That's 13. 15-12 Beavers.
Amy Underdown getting on that ball so fast with the quick arm swing. Didn't have a ton of approach, but just uses the inside hands of Alade.
Catherine Plummer, dug by Massey. How in the world did she dig that? Back row attack Going, sends it over, and the block of Alade. Well played by Tammy Alade.
She's got that hang time, that incredible vertical. Balls that you can tip over. Usually in practice against a player like Alade, you've got to take it a little bit higher because she's got such a great reach.
Born in Nigeria, her full name, Babata Milore Imantic Alade. There's Gravely into the triple block. Underdown, gets it to roll over the cord. 16-13 OSU.
Underdown finding the floor somehow on that play, just trickling it through the hands. She's doing such a nice job going right at the block and attacking it.
11 kills for Oregon State this set. What a great pancake by Massey. Sent back over by Underdown. The crowd oohing and awing at that one. Fitzmorris with the swing, and Massey unable to dig it with one arm that time. Adriana Fitzmorris now with 7 kills for Stanford. Getting one back for the Cardinal and sending Morgan Hintz, one of their best, to the service line. Hintz, when she serves, keeps almost everything in play. 94.6%. 8 aces, 14 errors coming into this one. Swing for Goings, off the double block, covered up by Ellis. On the attack is Underdown, right down into the tape. An unforced error for Underdown, and it's a 1-point Oregon State lead.
Oregon State really needs to get this side out at this point. That pass becoming so critical for them.
Pushed over by Sheehan. Hintz read that one well. Back set. Fitzmorris. One-hand play by Massey right into the face of Maddie Goings. And we're tied up here in the fourth game.
Tremendous effort again, and that defensive effort on both sides of the floor. Every play has been so hard fought for both of these teams. They've got to be exhausted at this point.
Goings off the soft block. Gray was there. Bump set by Hintz. Swing by Fitzmorris. Kill for Adriana Fitzmorris. Number 9 of the match.
Beautiful swing from Fitzmorris. Really finding that sharp cross court. Getting a lot of power on that play.
Timeout taken by Oregon State. Stanford on a 4-0 run. This is the time in the third set where Stanford took charge.
Right at 18-18, and Stanford just kind of put their foot on the gas. Definitely Oregon State wants to stay in this match, give themselves an opportunity like in the first set for good things to happen.
Well, we told you Catherine Plummer, the offensive player of the week in the Pac-12. Morgan Hintz of Stanford, the defensive player of the week. 5th time she's won the award this year, and you see why with what she's done tonight. Last week in sweeps over Washington State and Washington, 34 digs, 5.14%.
She's such a fantastic player, not only defensively, which is so fun to watch as she's able to read balls and be places where it's unbelievable that she would be able to spot it down, but also in her passing. She is able to keep her team in system at such a high level. One of the best players in the country.
Yeah, it's remarkable how often she puts those digs on the dime. 20 digs for her. 20 for Grace Massey of Oregon State. Coming up tomorrow, the pregame from Corvallis. College football Pac-12 Network and the Pac-12 Now app at 1 o'clock. Cal will be here in town to take on Oregon State. And then at 5 o'clock, USC at Utah. Lots happening tomorrow. Pac-12 Network football doubleheader. Stanford leading 17-16, and OSU needing the side out right here to get it back even. They have an opportunity. Sheehan back set. Gravely off the backslide into the double block. And Stanford reached over the net.
Wow, that's an interesting call right there. It's going to argue that if Fitzmaurice reached up and over, breaking the plane of the net. Usually that call is only called over when there's a disputation where maybe someone's trying to set. But that play felt like, hey, Fitzmaurice, you know, you're 6'6", 6'7". It's really easy to reach over, and maybe that was just a little too much.
That's the play that evens the 4th set up at 17. McKenna Brown serve. Back set to Fitzmaurice. One-hand dig by McKenna Brown. And the point goes Stanford's way. 18-17 Cardinal. Fitzmaurice comes out. Kate Formico to serve for Stanford. Pass by Ellis, and Sheehan read well by Formico. Swing by McClure into the double block of Shell, and Sheehan.
OSU right in this 4th set. Incredible effort. Good read by Formico. And then the big block there on the outside, as really OSU not sticking with the 6-2 very long. They go right back to the 5-1.
A 5'9" Maddie Sheehan, and there's Bowen in the block. Back-to-back blocks for Oregon State, their 7th and 8th of the match. And they have a 19-18 lead, trying to force Stanford, remarkably, to a 5th set.
Right, and that 5th set is crazy. Anything can happen, and if they could push it to that, it could be their win. They could be in a position to really take one off the Cardinal.
Wow. That's a service error for Sheehan, evens it up at 19 apiece. Lots of work to be done for Oregon State to force Stanford to a 5th set for the first time in 16 years. Mark Barnard knows his team is giving Stanford a run for their money. Sheehan, there's Goings, a laser off of McClure, and Plummer sent it over. And it's now a 2019 Oregon State lead.
And once again, Oregon State finding success in the middle of the floor, really splitting that block and hammering that ball.
There's Holly Campbell into the match for the first time for Stanford with a swing on the backslide. Haley Bennett with a big swing. Catherine Plummer with an absolute bullet to even it up at 20. Holly Campbell quickly in there and now comes out for Stanford as Sydney Wilson comes in for the Cardinal to serve and play defense. Swing for Underdown. Amy Underdown with another kill, her 15th. 21-20, Oregon State.
And this set seems tight. as far as points, but as far as momentum and confidence, all OSU at this point. Stanford, you can tell, just a little hesitant. They're put in a position they haven't been in all year long.
Can Stanford get a side out they need? Gray going to Plummer, their get out of jail free card into the double block. Oregon State celebrating perhaps a little bit too soon. Here's Plummer again, high off the hands. Covered up by Sheehan, bumps at Massey, back row attack, Goings off the block. Another kill for Goings. Hard-earned point for Oregon State. And they lead it 22-20, Goings with a dozen kills. Timeout taken by the Cardinal.
Wow, Oregon State never giving up. They are right in this fourth set.
Remarkable. Maddie Goings going to work here, putting her team up by 2.
My name is Lily Serafin, and I'm the CEO of Home Care Assistance. We're the largest consumer health company providing aging services, which means that we deploy innovative products and services to the home to help older adults live safely and independently in the comfort of home. My path to success really started with my experience as a Stanford student. I had the opportunity to reimagine the world around me, which I think is very representative of Stanford. That whole idea that you don't just have to create a path on pathways that have already been established. You can really make your own mark in the world, including creating entirely new markets and industries. I think that my Stanford experience in all of those ways has really influenced who I've become.
My name is Lily Serafin. I'm a proud graduate of Stanford's class of 2003. Go Card!
Oregon State has never beaten Stanford. Stanford 66-0 against OSU. 3 times OSU has forced Stanford to a 5th set over the years, the last time 16 years ago. Oregon State 3 points away from forcing Stanford to a winner-take-all set here. Grace Massey to serve. Good pass on the dive from McClure. Swing for Plummer. Goes back to that great pass from McClure, and Plummer registering her 18th kill, a match high.
Smart play, great pass, started it all. They bring Plummer inside, allowing her to hit inside the block for a much-needed kill for the Cardinal.
Big-time side out for Stanford. Now can Oregon State do likewise? Jenna Gray to serve. Good pass by Goings. Lots of options for Sheehan. Bennett pushes it over. Here's Plummer into the block and out of bounds.
Such a smart play from Plummer, just throwing that ball into the block, wiping it off the hands to tie this one up.
Back-to-back points for Stanford. Gray to serve again. .39 service aces per set. That's 3rd in the Pac-12. Not an ace, but it's a free ball because of the serve. Here it comes, Fitzmaurice. Excellent coverage by Plummer. The swing by Plummer into the block. Covered up by Alade. Kept alive by Hintz, but it's out of bounds. 23-22, Oregon State lead.
There's a reason every fan is wearing those Oregon State block shirts. The block for Oregon State so big in this 4th set.
Those shirts say, "We build the dam." Out of system Stanford. Plummer with a big swing into the block. Excellent coverage by Hintz. Swing for Fitzmaurice and a kill for Fitzmaurice to get this one even again. That's her 10th kill.
That's a big one. Stanford going antenna to antenna to try to open up a spot on the floor. That big block for Oregon State, trying to split that.
Can OSU get a side out here with Plummer serving? An opportunity. Sheehan going to under down, going back corner, but going long. And it is match point for Stanford. Who does Plummer target here? And can Oregon State respond? And that is that. An ace serve for Catherine Plummer ends it. Oregon State gave Stanford a battle, but that's how it ends.
Well, and that is why this conference is just so amazing. The top team against the lowest team, and who would have thought? What a battle. Both sides having to work so hard. Oregon State giving Stanford everything they wanted. They were very nervous, backs against the wall, and that's exactly what Oregon State wanted to do. They can take away a lot of good out of this match.
Well, Stanford scored the final 5 points of the third set. They scored 5 of the final 6 in the fourth set to finally close this one out. And for the Stanford Cardinal, they're now 9-0, 17-1 overall. And I think they learned some things today that can help them in their quest for a national championship.
Right, and I think Oregon State can come away. They've got to come out of this one with more confidence as they go into the next week and into their match on Sunday, that they definitely have a chance in this conference in the second half to make a run.
What a great match. What a great crew we had here. For producer-director Tim Lay, for Amy Gatt and our entire crew, I'm Rich Burke. That's it from Corvallis. Oregon State took the first game. Stanford won the next 3.